There are entire facilities here on Earth that have nothing but extraterrestrials in them. There's apparently a black obsidian pyramid in Alaska. Linda Moulton Howe has reported on it. And I was told that that is a base for grays. So the whole entire pyramid is filled with gray ETs. That's just one example. We are not alone here on Earth. That's one of the reasons why the ETs will not allow us to have any type of nuclear war, because there's plenty of other races here as well. And we get into the honeycomb Earth, the hollow Earth idea. It's not actually hollow in the center, but if you go a mile or two below the surface, you get these huge underground caves that can be 20 to 40 miles wide, that have, mile high, several miles high ceilings. And if you go in there and you don't terraform it, it has a natural luminosity. There's this bioluminescent bacteria that grows on the ceiling. And then on the ground, you have these white creatures that look similar to the stuff that you see at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, where there's no light. You have little white shrimp, little white crabs, little white clams, tube worms, seaweed, all this kind of stuff. So what they end up doing, these extraterrestrial civilizations, is they can move into these areas, they can terraform them, and they turn them into something that has the semblance of being on the surface. They create an artificial sky that gives you artificial lighting, but it looks very real. They have trees, they have grass, they have meadows, they have mountains, they have buildings, they have roads. They don't use gas-powered vehicles, they use electric vehicles. So there's no pollution down there, but people live, and you can pretty much feel like you're on the surface when you're down there. Apparently cloning is used a great deal. There are certain people who are cloned over and over again. So you might see the same face many times, and this is how they've been able to get millions of people as staff. Another thing Uncle Jack actually told me is that when MH370 was abducted, they actually landed that plane on Diego Garcia, which is a base in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and that the people who were on the ship were brought into an underground facility, and they never came back. So there are various cases. David Paulides has a movie called, I think it's Fahrenheit 411, or maybe that's the Michael Moore thing. But anyway, it's something similar to that. But anyway, David Paulides, look up his work. He's got multiple stories about people being abducted in national forests. That's where it's most apt to happen. Don't go camping in national forests, especially if you have colorful stuff. There's many, many cases of clothing being folded up, neatly folded up, and people are missing. There's stories in actual upstate New York of what sounds like a big metallic door closing, and people just disappeared when they were right there. So yeah, people do get abducted. They do get brought underground, and they might not be dead. In fact, they become workers, and you just never get to go to the surface again. So you're dealing with extraterrestrials, and again, the fourth density types, they evolved out of third density organisms. They look human most of the time. Some of them might have different colored skin. We've heard of blue, green, orange, pink, yellow, gray, silver, black, jet black, with really dark bloodshot eyes. There's one type that looks like that. Then we have lots of different types of reptilians. The three main types I've heard of that I can confirm is there's a greenish one that might have some brown scales. There's a grayish colored one, and then there's a yellow one. So you got green, gray, and yellow are the three major types of reptilians that are most commonly seen. There's another group that's called colloquially Oompa Loompas that people like Pete Peterson dealt with, and they're little short round people, believe it or not, similar to our notions of elves. There's other people that are very short. They're only like 7 inches tall. And Pete described having a meeting with one of those at Area 51. It seems that all of our legends about leprechauns, gnomes, fairies, dwarves, elves, all this kind of stuff is actually really true. Somebody just wrote about transparent aluminum with the sky projected on it. M. Martin, yeah, that's part of what happens. I don't know if they're using transparent aluminum or not, but hopefully in the future we'll find ways to make that material because it is an amazing substance. We will make it in smaller quantities. Like, for example, the cockpit of this plane right here, the SM-39, this is going to be made with a transparent metal. I think it's transparent titanium because when you go to Mach 4, that's the fastest speed. The engines go all the way down on the sides here. That's why they need to be so long. When you have that kind of a speed, you're going to get this heat factor that will melt through glass. So you need something like transparent titanium. You need these breakthroughs in material science just to be able to have it function without falling apart. So this is a very fascinating thing. And again, according to Uncle Jack, the Roths, and you know what the rest of it is, it has child on the end. They are very involved in this. And he said that they answer to the Draco reptilians, but the Draco treat them like crap. He said, I'll give you an example of something he actually said. He's like, mate, they actually get together, these Draco reptilians, mate, and they talk like, they're very, very acerbic, mate. They don't talk in a nice, polite way to the people here, to the Roths. They talk to them like the children, and they're very abusive, mate. They're very, very competitive, and they sound like a bunch of grandmothers carping about who they hate and gossiping over bingo, mate. And they even have the bingo wings. Well, no, reptilians don't have bingo wings. They're very strong. But this is real. This is stuff that, again, I got Pete and Uncle Jack talking in person. I got Henry Deacon and Uncle Jack talking in person. They were at my house. They went out in the backyard. We're going to learn a lot of things. This has all been kept very secret from us. I know it feels intolerable, but this is why I put all my money into Stavati Aerospace. I believe that this is true. I was willing to bet all of my wealth on it. Everything I could earn, I put into, why would I actually buy this facility in Niagara Falls? 180,000 square foot military facility with a massive hangar, 70-foot tall ceiling. Why would I do all this if I didn't think it was true? Obviously, I believe it. That's why I put my money where my mouth is. And there's really nobody else who's out there as a commentator talking about this, supporting the alliance, getting lots of followers, making money, who's actually taken their money and invested it directly into something like this. As far as I know, I'm the only one where I've actually made these tangible steps. We have a real military facility. We've been keeping it alive. Now we're finally going to get funded after all this time. So I understand how frustrating it is to think that there's all this stuff that you don't know, that there's all these ETs here. And I still have only been talking about fourth density ETs. According to the law of one, there's also fifth density. And at that level, they can project into a human body, and then they can dematerialize it again. And at that level, they don't look anything different than you and me. So that's what's ironic, is that in the fourth density category, they're going to look very different. They might have larger heads and larger eyes. But in the fifth density category, they're actually going to project into a form that's comfortable for us. They're going to look like something that we're familiar with. So this is really, really fascinating, because all of the events that we're seeing in the world are being, there's a hidden theme behind what's going on. We're looking at what obviously seems to be some type of strange shadow war. It's an information war, as Alex has said, hence his title of this company, InfoWars. And this is not what you think. The DS is very, very adamantly fighting to prevent you from learning about extraterrestrials. That's the last thing they want you to know about. They want you to be afraid. They want you to see them as gods, to see them as authority figures. The last thing they want is for you to understand there's a higher power that answers Christianity, answers Islam, answers Buddhism, answers Hinduism. It pays off all of these ancient teachings that we've inherited that often become religions. And we find out that these are not mythological texts. These are actual, documented, factual, historical accounts. The Bible has ET contact. The Quran has ET contact. Buddhist scriptures have multiple examples of ET contact. So does the Hebrew scriptures. I mean, it's everywhere. So we're going to have a big awakening. And as I've said before, I have been used by these higher beings telepathically to convey a message, which is the earth changes that we were afraid were going to happen, pole shift, solar flash, tsunami, all that stuff. That's not going to be happening. We're actually going to be spared these disasters because we've learned the lessons that Jesus meant to teach us, to be loving towards other people. Enough of us have learned these lessons of love. Joy Berman just donated. Thank you very much. We've learned these lessons of love so that we don't have to go through this catastrophe. We've authorized a positive timeline. And so it's very important to understand that the most jealously guarded secrets by the DS are the